This is Global Tennessee, news, analysis, and commentary from the Tennessee World Affairs Council in Nashville. Global Tennessee is produced in association with the Center for International Business at Belmont University and the International Business Council of the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. The World Affairs Council is a nonpartisan, nonprofit educational association, and the views expressed on Global Tennessee are those of the participants.
Welcome to Global Nashville with karl-dean. I'm Patrick Ryan, President of the Tennessee World Affairs Council. Thanks for joining us. Today, Karl will be talking with Doug Kreulen, the President and CEO of the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority, which includes John C. Toon Airport and Nashville International Airport, or BNA. Mr. Kreulen has been with the authority since 2012 and was named President in 2017. He previously served as Director of Operations at Huntsville International Airport. Before his work in commercial aviation, he served 27 years in the United States Air Force, earning the rank of colonel. During his service, he held prominent command and staff leadership positions, including Chief of Staff at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and operational assignments in Japan and Germany, and the Joint Staff in the Pentagon. You can find his complete bio on our website at tnwac.org. Berry Field, established in 1937, has grown to become Nashville International Airport, or BNA. With nearly 18.3 million passengers in 2019, BNA is one of the fastest growing airports in North America. BNA serves 540 daily commercial flights to 75 nonstop destinations. According to a recent study, in 2018 alone, BNA generated more than $7.1 billion in total economic impact, supported more than 67,000 jobs in the region, and produced more than $392 million in state, local, and federal taxes. BNA receives no local tax dollars. By 2041, the population of the greater Nashville area is expected to surpass 2.5 million people. By 2023, BNA passenger traffic will grow from 18 million today to more than 23 million. BNA Vision is the dynamic expansion plan designed to get in front of this growth and maintain Nashville International as a world-class airport. Obviously, we're impacted by the pandemic, and tonight we'll be talking about the prospects for the future of Nashville Airport and the Nashville Airport Authority. Karl?
Great. Well, thanks, Pat, and thank you, Doug, for spending part of your evening with us. Thrilled to have you on the show. From my perspective, during my time as mayor, I think one of Nashville's great assets is the airport. I don't know how often people stop and think about what it means to our economy, but I think some of the numbers Pat just put out there indicate that it's just a critical part of job creation. It's a critical part of government revenue. It makes the area work, and it has really been a success story for several decades now. It's continued growth, and it's sort of its dominant position here in this part of the country. And I want to talk about that, but first I wanted to get some information about you. I mean, clearly you spent some time in the Air Force in the service. Tell us how you ended up in this position, and how did you get to Nashville?
Thank you very much for having me on the show this evening. Very blessed to serve the country for 27 years in the United States Air Force. After I came out of college, I got a good deal from a recruiter that promised to send me to pilot training, and I took him up on that offer. And my family and I moved 14 different times during that 27 years. And started off flying helicopters for about 8 years, and then jets and into C-130s for about 19 more years. I finished my career at the Air Force Academy in 2007. Had a chance to relocate to Northern Alabama for a defense company doing business development and electronic warfare. And I miss being around aviation, and Huntsville was kind enough to bring me in, and figured if I could run an Air Force base, I could help them maybe run a commercial airport. So there was a lot to learn over those 4 years. And then Nashville gave me an opportunity in 2012 to move up here, and really haven't looked back. It's been a blessing.
Right. And so you've been here during a period where I guess in 2012, when you arrived here, the city was really coming out of the recession very strongly and went into a period that has just only until the last couple of months slowed down of incredible economic expansion, where the airport has played just a huge role in that. Yeah. You have gone through a difficult couple months here, and not to forget that it really started off with the tornado, where the airport authority, the John Toon Airport in West Nashville, was hit pretty hard.
Yeah, it was the March 3rd, a little bit after midnight, 12:40 in the morning. The phones went off at my house and didn't quit going off for a while. That's the approximate time that the tornado went across John C. Toon. We have been blessed, as you said, by a lot of growth at Nashville, and so we've reinvested in the airport to make sure that we take care of the city. And so we've built a state-of-the-art airport communication center, a state-of-the-art emergency operations center. So that was launched within that hour of that tornado going across John Toon. We ended up losing 17 hangars, and about 94 airplanes were destroyed. And it took us from about March 3rd to the morning of March 20th to get all the debris cleared out of the way so we could open up John Toon again.
So it's open now again.
That's correct. Yes, the hangars, the airplanes have all been removed. And in fact, tomorrow is a committee day for our Board of Commissioners, and we'll be discussing what's the new future for John C. Toon, because now we'll have the opportunity to use the insurance money that we'll get from the destroyed hangars to figure out what do we want to build next. And also reinvesting in John Toon, as the board most likely tomorrow will approve, or the committee will approve going to the board the following week, the new construction of a control tower at John Toon, which is going to be a big boom to the general aviation community on that west side of town.
Right, and that's it. And the general aviation community in Nashville is certainly strong and developing. And as the city is been more economically successful, you have more people flying in on private jets all the time.
That's correct. John Toon was pretty much the busiest general aviation airport in the state of Tennessee. Prior to the tornado, it had about 86,000 operations a year. That boom really started a couple years previously when we extended the runway. So the runway went from 5,000 to 6,000 feet long. It has 2 safety areas on each end, and that's what really attracted the corporate jets to be able to come in and out of Toon. And it's an easy way to come in the back door to the city government or the state capitol.
Right. And then, of course, almost simultaneous with the tornado, you had the beginning of the pandemic that has hit our country so hard. How has the pandemic, what's been the impact at the airport? I think we all know that it's been extreme, but what exactly has happened?
Well, it's forced us to, go back to the core of why we're an authority, to make sure that we, make smart business decisions. And with the revenue that we generate and the reserves that we've been able to build up, now we have to figure out what's the best way to operate the airport. So as Pat was saying earlier in the introduction, prior to the pandemic, we had 550 flights a day, commercial jet flights arriving and departing from Nashville, and the pandemic has slowed that to about 180. We would normally, previous to the pandemic, would have about 50,000 passengers going through the airport every day. I used to like to say that we filled and emptied the Bridgestone Arena 3 times a day, every day, wow. 365 days a year. And now, instead of 50,000 people going through, we're somewhere between 2,000 to 4,000 passengers. So about a 95% drop in passenger traveling. And so what that's focused the staff on is building a budget. How do we start over again and start on the upslope of the curve? And what do we need to do to make passengers feel more comfortable about flying again?
Have you, in the past couple weeks, has there been an increase in the amount of people flying, or has it been fairly constant?
Yes, I would like to, do a high five or something, but we went down in late March, early April to probably 500 passengers in the airport all day. And towards the end of April, that started to come up to about 1,000 departing and 1,000 arriving. And right now we're back up to 2,000, departing and 2,000 arriving. So it's slowly coming up. They're all trying to get acclimated with how do we, wear the mask inside the airport? What do we need to do to get on the airplane? And so we keep working from that.
Yeah. Is there, are most of the flights the sort of domestic flights, or are we still doing the flight to London at all, or is that on hold?
When all the other hot spots started popping up, we lost all of our nonstops to the Caribbean. When the government stopped flying between here and Canada, we lost all those flights, and then London's had its own challenges. So British Airways stopped in late March.
Is there still regular air service to New York City and LA, or?
Yes, yeah, there's still earlier, and I like Pat's, from our 2018 study, how much time changes from early March to now. So we used to have 75 nonstop destinations. As the airlines have pulled back until they figure out how to deal with this, we're doing 50 nonstop destinations a day. So we still do New York City, Washington, D.C., just not the volume that we were doing.
Yeah. And during all this, you have, of course, had in the last year or two, very aggressive construction work going on at the airport. You built a new garage that has worked very well. You've got a hotel coming online. There's lots of work being done in the terminal. Has that work been able to continue during this time period?
Yes, it has, and we're really blessed with the support of the commissioners. We took our bond offering in December of last year to New York. We were able to sell $920 million worth of bonds to basically who's going to pay for the BNA Vision. So if we would have, timing was great there, because 4 months later, you have this tremendous drop off in passenger traffic. So on a day-to-day basis, we have the new garage and admin complex going up. We have Concourse D. Both ticketing wings are being built today, and we're about ready to stretch the center part of the terminal, which will give us that new international arrivals facility in a couple years. So that money that we borrowed for that specific cause is sitting there, and we're spending it. And it's actually a good time to build now, because we don't have as many passengers that we have to negotiate around.
Right, right. And thinking back to after the days passed immediately after 9/11, when air travel pretty much stopped, how long did that last? I mean, are we in an area now in terms of drop off on air travel that we've never been in before?
I would think all the airlines, all the airports would say yes, that we're in territory that nobody's really had to deal with before. I was still in the service during 9/11, but we watched all the airline traffic stop for 4 or 5 days. Then you had to have special permission to fly for a little while, but within a few weeks, flights were resuming. For Nashville, when we went from 50,000 passengers a day to less than, say, 500 at that end of March time period, we went back in the airport authority's history files, and we really can't find a reference to that few of passengers. In fact, the closest we have is a 1961 news article that was celebrating the old terminal on the west side of the airport by Briley Parkway, and they were happy that they had 1,300 passengers that day. So we went back from 2020 to late 1950s, and now we're building our way back.
Maybe for the viewers, to get a little understanding of how the airport actually works. I mean, the airport, as Pat mentioned, does not receive money from the metro budget and is an independent authority. Could you just describe what the governance is of the airport authority and where your revenue comes from?
You bet. I think we were blessed that when the city leaders created the statute in 1970 to create an airport authority, we basically were divorced from metro government, which was not a good or a bad thing, but basically that risk of having to raise that capital and cover those O&M expenses was no longer a burden for the city. So it's now a burden for the airport authority. And so we have to cover all of our day-to-day expenses to include our capital. So we raise money three ways. First is the airlines pay us to land, park the jets, and rent space. We also sell food, beverages, retail in our shops inside the airport. And then the third leg of that stool is our ground transportation and parking. So each of those three raised about $50 million a year before the pandemic, and that covered all of our operating expenses.
Yeah, and I should mention that actually you've done a wonderful job in terms of the food at the airport, tying it in much more to local businesses here in Nashville, but also just increasing the quality quite dramatically, I think, over the last couple of years, and creating a much more festive sort of atmosphere at the airport itself.
Yeah, we have a lot of new restaurants out of the, back to the pandemic side of the house, out of the results of the pandemic is we have 52 businesses that, are run throughout the airport to try to generate that revenue. So that's, restaurants, that's food and beverage, that's retail spaces. So out of that 52, about 12 of them are operating right now. We're building 12 new ones, and the other 30 are closed because of the business environment right now. But the Board of Commissioners and the staff have been committed to try to make the airport reflect Nashville. So if you arrive at the airport, you can sample what you're going to experience downtown. And if you have a good time downtown, you should be able to sample it one more time before you leave. So we have a lot of new restaurants and retail stores that will really reflect Middle Tennessee and the culture that we love here in Nashville.
And you've referred to the authority, that you have a governing body, the Airport Authority, which under state law, the mayor, the metropolitan mayor appoints those members.
Right.
I would just, and the council confirms them, and they have a term of office. But I would say it is probably the most popular appointment a mayor can make. I have never had anybody not accept or not be excited by being able to serve on the Airport Authority.
Well, the Board of Commissioners are the ones that hire the president and CEO. So I clearly understand who I work for, but I would also say that I appreciate them because they do this out of a desire to serve. So they don't receive any compensation. They do spend a lot of time reading a lot of material, and every month we're meeting at least twice for committee and board meetings, and their ultimate goal is what's in the best interest for Nashville. So I think that's what's made the authority very successful.
I think historically, before my time and certainly afterwards, it's been a real high quality group of people who, there are pilots, there's different designated roles that people play. And as you say, all these boards and commissions, people are doing that for free. They're not being paid for it, and we appreciate that. The airport is so important to the city of Nashville in terms of its growth and prosperity. How do you see the airport in terms of, we talked about some population figures. I think I used to talk about the fact that Nashville was sort of on track at some point in the 2030s, probably being about the size of what Denver is now. Right. How do you see the airport growing during the next 20 years or 15 years?
Well, the beauty is that investment that we mentioned, $1.4 billion expansion that we're doing now, will allow us in terms of the Board of Commissioners and the master plan that we work off of, the goal is to be able to take that 18 million passenger airport and make it big enough to hold 36 million passengers there. And they're the reference to Denver or a city of that size. So everything that the board does in different program or passenger activity levels every 5 years, we're trying to make sure that we have the facilities. So right now we're expanding from about 888,000 square feet to 1.4 million square feet to be able to handle that volume, go from 14 security lanes to 24. But more importantly is we're also about to embark on a partnership with TDOT to straighten Donaldson Pike, which what that'll do, when we straighten it a little bit, will give us, instead of a 1 mile terminal loop, it'll be a 2 mile oval. And goes from 1 mile and 2 lanes to 2 mile oval and 6 lanes. And it's just to get all those passengers off of Interstate 40, off of Donaldson, Murfreesboro. How do we handle that, going from 18 million people wanting to fly out of the airport to 36? So it's a real strategic challenge to make sure we do our part so that we don't slow down the growth of Nashville.
And in terms of flights, I mean, obviously the London flight has gotten a lot of attention, and we're going to have an international terminal arrival area. But there's been a lot of progress made in the last 5-6 years. It's kind of a constant thing where the number of flights to New York and Los Angeles, which are absolutely key for business, have increased. I think we have direct flights now for the last few years to San Francisco, which was something we definitely needed. Yeah. But the flights within the U.S. have grown at a fairly good clip, and seen from a variety of service companies. Southwest, a huge part of it, really great coverage of the United States.
Yeah, we are blessed. The average number of nonstops we mentioned earlier was 75, or 75 is what BNA had. The average number for a medium hub airport that we fit into that category is 57. And prior to the pandemic, with the Nashville, running, 8 years in a row on a hot streak, we were up to 90 nonstop destinations. And that's really makes it so much easier for the travelers to come in and out, because it's easy for them to get from their home to the airport right into downtown Nashville. And that makes it a very attractive place to visit.
Right. And a lot of discussion because as I think we know on this program, that Tennessee and Nashville is very much part of a world economy. Tennessee is, of course, and Middle Tennessee is a big area where lots of Japanese business has located. Discussions about the possibility of a direct flight to Tokyo is, how does something like that happen, and what are the possibilities there?
It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of support from many different agencies, the state, the city. We're clearly aware that, I believe the last update that I got, where there's 195 Japanese companies in the state of Tennessee employing about 55,000 Tennesseans. So that's a big desire business-wise to get to Asia. So on the planning side of the house, we've been tracking, and Nashville's population of not nonstop, but on international flight over the last 8 years has gone from about 400,000 passengers to about 1.4 million visitors going overseas. Now, the majority of that is to Europe, but Asia's growing at an 8-9% a year, which is pretty remarkable. So as the airport authority, again, back to the commissioners and the planning requirements, we have on our books right now to extend one of the runways to 12,000 feet. 3 of the runways are into the wind, north-south. And so one of those needs to be lengthened, so it makes it easier for the jets to depart nonstop to Asia. And so it'll probably be runway 2 left, which is the one closer to Genesco that most people are familiar with. But we're planning for that now. We've started the environmental assessment there. We'll have to move a lot of earth, build another couple tunnels for Murfreesboro traffic to go through, and But it'll take us 5, 6, 7 more years to get ready to knock that out.
Good, good. Any other dream destinations you got on your mind right now?
No, I would love to see, before London was hugely successful, British Airways was very happy. The airplanes were almost always full. And about 50% of the passengers were going to England and Ireland. The other 50% were going to go to somewhere else in Central Europe or the Middle East. So I'm hoping we get back to that business, because I think Nashville will grow enough in the near term to get a second European flight while we're building this runway and getting ready for Asia. And somewhere down the road, Nashville will get that flight nonstop to Narita or Haneda in Japan, most likely. And I think we're going to see a big boom in the city and the state at that point because of the businesses and tourism that'll spur.
Right. Who do we compete with? Who's in terms of our airport, who's our main competitors?
Sure. Raleigh-Durham is close behind us a little bit.
Yeah.
They're a well-run airport. Their business triangle really sets them off, so they're doing a little bit better internationally than we are because of the companies that they have right there in that general area. Austin is as big on fire as Nashville is, and so we really watch, Austin, San Jose, California, and Raleigh is probably a good benchmark.
Yeah, those are good cities to compete with, and I think we can compete with them.
I do too.
Well, anything you want to add that I haven't asked you? That I've missed?
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate the support that you give the city and this organization. I do think there's a global perspective that Nashville needs to continue to focus on, because it's a small world. When you travel like Pat did in his time in the Navy or my time in the Air Force, you realize how good we have it in America, but there's a lot of people on this world that Nashville can reach out to, and I think that's a benefit to us in the state of Tennessee.
We've got one question in the queue before we cut out here for cocktail hour. But let me ask first, Doug, if I could. Nashville is what we like to call it a global city. What sort of reflection do you get from the people you talk to, especially if you're talking to international partners, about their perception of Nashville as a global place?
I think it's well received. A lot of times, like British Airways, and my compliments to the CVC and the state and the city at the time to land British Airways. It takes that kind of partnership, but when you look at some of the data, they might want to overlook Middle Tennessee and Nashville, but if you can get them here and show them the vibrant economy and what we have to offer, whether it's education or music or healthcare, there's so much to offer, and the people in Nashville are very hospitable, and that normally wins them all over. So we don't have any bad customer reviews when we pull in people. I like to say sometimes that we need to get back to the CMA and the Bonnaroo, because half of those people flying in are from Canada, and they love the music and the environment. So we need to open back up.
Well,
one of the things about tourism that we shouldn't forget. I mean, when you look at, Austin has it too, but when you're comparing us to some of the cities we've mentioned, our tourism economy is so much stronger. And
Yes.
you add that to the sort of the booming economy with healthcare and everything else we have here. It's a great thing. The question that one of the viewers sent in was to ask you about whether you think, in terms of the help we're getting or the airport is getting from the federal government at this point in the pandemic, are we getting our fair share as compared to comparable size airports or cities?
Yes, I think we are at this point. Overall, industry-wide, the biggest thing most people need to understand is that there's a difference between the airline industry and the airport industry. The airlines are trying to run their business, and the airports are trying to run their side of the house. So We were lucky to go, myself and a few others, to the White House in early March and lobby for the first CARES Act. It's estimated airports will lose about $23 billion March to March. And so the president and the Congress gave us the opportunity to get $10 billion. Nashville, yesterday afternoon, I signed our grant for $54.9 million, and we're allowed to use that to help pay debt service and our operational expenses while our revenues are down. So that federal assistance plus the staff's ability to cut the budget, we've cut about $56 million over the next 2 years from our budget. Is keeping us lean and mean and helps us make our payments that we need to make without. I'm pretty confident we won't see any bond downgrades. They'll be impressed by the strength of what we've been able to pull off during this pandemic.
That's great. That's great. Well, again, thank you for the time, and thank you for all the great work the Airport Authority is doing for our city. And I think Nashville, as I say, our best days are still to come, and the Airport Authority is going to be a huge part of that. And we appreciate you. Pat, anything you want to add?
Let me just close with a couple of thanks to Doug for taking time out this evening, and to you, Carl, and also to our audience who checked in. Just want to remind everybody that the Tennessee World Affairs Council is a membership organization, and this is membership month. So please take a look at our website, tnwac.org/join, where you can become a member of the World Affairs Council. We do these programs on kind of a shoestring budget. We're maybe not cutting millions from our budget, but we could use your support. So please consider becoming a member of the World Affairs Council, and we will continue to bring these great programs to you. That's it for tonight. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Everybody be safe.
Great. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
Bye-bye.